Hello and welcome to another podcast.
Great to be back, thank you, Al. Yeah, really excited about this one. Al keeps looking at me, I don't know why, what I've done. Is it some faux pas I've committed?
Well, we did miss last week's podcast because Sean was very selfish and had a birthday.
Yeah, terrible really.
86 years old, are you?
Well, I can remember the day back when the Bears won their first Super Bowl, so, that's 85. So.
Well, let's hope them days don't come back.
I don't think so at the moment, but yeah, okay. Good to be back.
Yeah, we'll get into it because there's been a lot of news as always.
People are now starting to draft as well, so we've had a couple of drafts, and that was exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we've just done a live draft in England, which they're very rare actually, and it's our second one, a new one up in Yorkshire. They're Richard from the NFL Fans Yorkshire. Check them out on Facebook. Fabulous
job, good organisation of the day, and we met a lot of new people, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, if you do want to go and check that group out, it's ever growing. There's so much going on. It's all NFL. It's absolutely brilliant.
And I get the feeling from talking to Richard that a lot of things are going to combine for all of us over in the UK next year. So it's going to be very exciting to see where this all goes.
Okay, well, into the news. Firstly, starting with the Patriots, obviously they let Malcolm Mitchell and Jordan Matthews go, and now they've released Kenny Britt. What do you read into that, and who benefits from that? Or do we not know yet?
This is the New England Patriots, so I think it's beginning to shape up for exactly what we've kind of seen so far. It's going to be Hogan's backfield till Edelman comes back, and then it's going to be Hogan.
Not Hogan's backfield, it's Hogan's wide receiver.
Well,
field.
It's going to be his, as far as the wide receiver goes, it's going to be his domain at this point until Edelman comes back, and then I think the two of them are going to kind of be the X and Y. And then we might see a bit of
and a bit of Gronk thrown in.
Gronk and maybe a little bit of a few deep shots for Dorsett, maybe. But I hold reservation on that. But we'll see how that plays out. So I think that's really all we can tell. The running game's the tricky bit. Still not sure.
Well, talking of tricky running games, Adam Gase came out this week and said Frank Gore and Kenyon Drake we're going to split.
It's what we said all the way along. Anybody that's been listening in on the podcast has seen this coming. I mean, let's be honest. I would love to be the first person that. Says, yes, this is the year of Kenyon Drake. And it would have been if it wasn't for Frank Gore. But Frank Gore...
Or Adam Gase, perhaps.
Or Adam Gase, yeah. But Frank Gore, he will do this. This is what he does. And he's such a good pass blocker. My God, he's so good at it. And he's going to need to be because they're going to need him. So there's going to be a lot of situations you're going to see them rotated in and out of the lineup. I am convinced Drake is naturally a younger, more talented back. But Gore's consistent. And in fantasy... he can win your championships just simply by having him on your squad.
So it could be a good late round flyer.
Definitely take him if he's out there.
Especially as we're in draft season.
Yeah, I've done it. I've taken him in one redraft league. He was sitting out there quite late. I just had to take him. I just think he's too good value. You can't leave him out on the board.
Exactly. The Saints announced this week they're releasing Terrence West from the backfield.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're losing Mark Ingram for 4 games. They've still got Kamara. Who does that benefit?
Kamara in the main. He's going to get more chances. Whether they come on the ground or in the air is irrelevant. He will get those opportunities. And the only person that maybe gets a little upgrade is probably Jonathan Williams for goal line plunges. Maybe. And I say that speculatively because, Kamara can do this as well. And actually, the Saints are a kind of an explosive offense. I mean, they drive up the field, but it can be in big chunks quick. So, don't be surprised that they don't need Jonathan Williams a lot.
But, I mean, Jonathan Williams will probably be the number 2 for the first 4 weeks, and that could have some value.
Definitely in redraft, I think it's got a lot of value because, every now and again we all know how hard it is to find the scarcest position is running back. So if Jonathan Williams can do a job for 4 weeks, that may be enough time to rejiggle the team. So
and maybe if you do draft Ingram, you could cover him with Jonathan Williams for 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think that would be a very safe bet in redraft. No real value, I don't think, in PPR for him, but because Kamara takes all that away. But redraft, there's certainly it's definitely worth a punt, definitely.
Another man that's allegedly on the roster bubble is DeAndre Washington. He actually had an e-scope this week, so they already said he was on the roster bubble. So the Raiders, do you think they're going to move on from him? Or?
Yeah, I think his time is slowly ebbing away there. The scope's not helping. That's never a good sign. It must mean there's something there, cartilage or water build-up or something in there.
Well, I guess you've already got Marshawn Lynch and Doug Martin. They're pretty much a lock for the 1-2 punch, as Gruden's already said it. They haven't used them much in pre-season. That's because he's protecting them.
Yep.
Chris Warren has done well, who we gave a shout out to last week. It probably
Slightly, yeah, carry on.
wasn't even on a lot of people's list, Chris Warren, but we give you a shout out. And 100 yards last.
He did a fantastic job. It looks like we got a moving microphone, but never mind. Yeah, it's all good. As you said, you picked him out. He's done a very good job. He's getting a lot of talk. Rashid Penny has. Yeah, I saw something. I don't know if it's in your notes, which really concerned me actually.
Well, we'll talk about Penny in a minute.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Good.
So what? Chris Warren may be one for a stash in a dynasty
Definitely
league.
worth a stash.
In a deep dynasty league.
As it stands right now, there could be some early value in Chris Warren as the season is ebbing closer and closer. Certainly,
Chris Warren,
monitoring.
not Carson.
I do apologise.
I know you're talking about Chris Carson. Aren't you? We'll talk about him in a minute.
Okay, I'm getting excited.
I'm talking about Chris Warren, who's sort of been doing the pre-season work for the Raiders.
I do apologise. Yeah, I mean with him, certainly a deep stash. Yes, because what's going to come later?
Well, you got Lynch. He's probably his last year. You got
Yeah.
Doug Martin, and frankly, can you trust him? So he could be someone who's been excited in pre-season that Gruden likes.
Hey, we've got a moving microphone. I do like this. This is quite fun.
Sean's played his own game here.
Play my own game. This is called finding the microphone.
News coming out of Kansas City that they released Kendrick West.
Yeah.
Obviously, he led them in rushing.
There it goes again. Yeah.
He led them in. I don't know what to say about. A bit of comedy for you. It's not even meant.
There you go. Carry on.
Kendrick West led them in rushing a couple of years ago. He got the job ahead of Niles Davis.
He's been an excellent relief running back, hasn't he? To be perfectly honest with you. And what I like about him, he took over the Niles Davis role. When Niles Davis was pretty good on special teams and came in and did some very good relief work when they had Charles injured and things like that. And he did a really good job, Kendrick West. So I'm not quite sure what the reasoning is because they have got two really good backs there.
Well, it probably says a lot about Spencer Ware's fitness, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That he could be actually all good to go now because they reckon the roster decision was between him and Spencer Ware. So looks like Ware's went out. West has lost the job. They got Damian Williams who can pass catch in there.
It's Kareem Hunt's backfield, but just as I've always said about this backfield, you just have to remember this is Kansas. Things can change really quickly here. That coach is not frightened to roll with a hot hand, and if Hunt struggles, Ware will come in, and after that, all bets are off. So just always remember he's a really good stash late on in any draft.
Any in deep leagues, really. Okay, well, the Redskins, let's talk about their backfield because there's a lot going on. Obviously, we lost Darius Guice to injured reserve. He's out for the year. He did his ACL.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Pretty much everybody else breathing, apart from Kelly, has actually got injured. Piran's got an ankle injury. Should be back fairly soon.
Yeah.
But they actually signed Adrian Peterson, the veteran,
Yeah,
probably future Hall of Famer on a one-year deal.
I've seen a lot of people rushing to the waiver wire, picking Adrian Peterson up as the next hope here. I think you just got to be honest, and if you take a step back, I mean, as much as I understand in the deep league, it's probably a good move. You've got to try and take running backs when you can find them. I don't think there's a lot of value in it, to be honest. I really don't. I think it's a murky, messy backfield now that will be very unclear right into the season. I really don't know at this stage who's going to work his way out of this. And I wouldn't be surprised if all of them have a few hundred yards each, a touchdown or so here or there. But you'll never know when to play them. So it's an avoid backfield completely.
So you've got to bear this in mind. So this is the news on Washington. No Guy, so we lost him.
Yeah.
We've got Adrian Peterson and Pirine and Kelly probably vying for the running back role. So it could be any of the three, frankly. Chris Thompson's probably the pass catcher, but he's carrying an injury. He says he probably won't be fully fit till November. A lot of people put him up their list, but you've got to remember he's saying that he hasn't looked himself in pre-season either. He's been a bit sort of very careful about his injury.
We're still drafting Chris Thompson very, very high without taking into effect what he's telling them as well as what the coaching staff is saying. And I think you're absolutely right for raising this.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it in PPR where you get a point per catch. That's what he's going to do. He will do that role at some time, but will he be doing it at the start of the season?
Well, I think there's some real risk in this because this injury is obviously, if a player is telling you this is going to linger into November, it gives you a very good idea that it is probably a re-aggravating injury. This is something that could linger for a while, so therefore it could definitely hamper his fantasy value. I'm definitely avoiding him, and I have avoided him so far.
If you had to pick one of these guys, which one would you be interested in?
I think the player that he's not universally liked there, but I like Kelly. Just there's something about the guy, undrafted, seems to fight for his opportunity. They haven't dropped him. He's still going to make the team. He's going to make the 53. he just somehow manages to find a way to be productive. And I know it's not exciting, but if I was taking a punt on any of the three, I'd go with him. But that's
Okay.
just
Well,
me.
I'd take Pirine for what it's worth, but
and it's horses for course. I don't think either of us would be happy if we had to take them.
no.
Honest.
Well,
Even if we owned one each, we wouldn't be happy.
everyone has their value at ADP.
Yeah.
It's worth taking a shot if it's late enough, isn't it?
Not definitely worth a shot.
Right. Okay. Some very sort of concerning news out of Dallas, and this really affects Zeke. So you probably got to sit up and take notice at least of the
Centre,
news.
isn't it?
Well, the centre Travis Frederick has been diagnosed with Guillain-Barré disease, which is an autoimmune disease, which could could put him out for a while, maybe the whole season. Maybe even longer than that. It's a very sort of serious illness. Also, you've got to bear in mind Zach Martin, the right guard, hyperextended his knee a few weeks ago, so he's not 100%. They're two of the key blocks, for blocking in for Zeke, aren't they?
Yeah, I think when you consider this from a coaching perspective, and you think from a coordinator what you're going to do against Dallas, I was already thinking I would stack the box.
Well, yeah, it seems obvious, doesn't it?
Which was always the only method to try and control the running game. And I'm not saying you can, because they've got arguably the best line in the business, but now you've got actually a point of attack because you've lost your centre, so you can attack through the centre. You've got another player that's been removed, so you can attack from that side. So actually, it's looking a bit more dicey. I know they've got some very capable backups.
There's another free agent as well that's in the line that's been, again, exposed in pre-season, so sort of could be worrying signs.
A little bit concerning. And
would that put you Zeke down the board for you?
Not really. He's still top four. I mean, there's an
Would you put him below David Johnson, perhaps?
Maybe. Maybe.
With that news.
With the news that's come in, I think you'd have to be cautious and say David Johnson, because at least, okay, it's not ideal situation, but maybe that's what happens. Any of them you're happy to own. It's just that kind of news does dampen your spirits a little, because it could affect him, and it might make Dallas a bit more dimensional in terms of the way they run, which is easier to man cover, and it's easier to spy, and lots of things can break your way as a coordinator if they're losing players. Yeah,
and my worry as a Dallas fan is, I'm not 100% convinced we can move the ball in the air.
The wide receiver game looks terrible. I mean, I have to be honest and say, a lot of people are buying hope into Hearns. I've said this before. I'm not seeing that yet. I mean, I think Dak Prescott is very capable. He proved it in one season of football that he was good. Last year he was hampered all day long. What worries me is if he gets under the headlights again quickly without the running game, and then they're behind by a couple of scores. That really worries me. I'm very concerned about Dallas and the direction they're going.
I mean, if there's a couple of scores behind, it takes Zeke out of the game a little bit, doesn't it? Because I know he has been.
You'll honour the running game, but only for a certain point, and then there'll come a point where 2 scores is okay, you can still run, but 3 scores, no matter what they are, it starts to mean you've got less and less chances. And it means, yes, he could be used to throw at, but that's not really his strength.
So what you're saying there is game scripts could be against Zeke as well.
Very against him, yeah. We have to.
I mean, they could be against David Johnson, but he catches more than Zeke.
With Sam Bradford, he's another check down king. I mean, I prefer David Johnson in that situation, to be honest with you. Sam Bradford will be, you'll be out there as long as his leg holds, or legs, or body holds.
So you're talking yourself into David Johnson above Zeke?
At the moment, it looks that way, yeah.
Oh, there you go. I think I tend to agree, actually.
I would have rolled the dice early in the season because we've drafted early. If it'd fallen that way, I would have definitely taken some shots at Ezekiel Elliott.
We're not saying don't draft Zeke, but maybe just be aware.
Personally, it didn't fall that way for me, but I certainly would have taken him. And I believe the Dallas line is strong enough and capable with their backups to move the ball on the ground. It's just game script, as Al says rightly.
Okay, we've got a bit of a news coming from Seattle. Obviously, Pete Carroll came out this week and said Baldwin and Penny would be ready for week 1, would be ready to go.
Lovely.
There has been doubts, though, in the fantasy football community where people are saying, I don't really trust what Carroll says all the time. So you've got to bear that in mind. Baldwin's probably okay. He started running again, but running's very different to playing.
I'll tell you what was concerning.
What
about Penny that really concerned me? Did you see the news on his bulking up?
Yeah, well, that's the other bit of news. He's up 16 £16 since the combine.
There's bulking, right? So there's a situation where a player goes away in the off season and spends, with a trainer, 12 weeks, and then puts on, say, 10 or 12 pounds worth of mass in terms of muscle mass. That I can live with that, But when you put £16 on pretty much in a few weeks,
Since the combine. it is, so.
I'm very concerned as a coach because I'm thinking that he's out of condition. I mean, and that worries me because that means he's not taking it seriously enough.
Well, this next section's
And
going to be...
that worries me a lot. And weight on a running back. I mean, as much as yes, there's a certain fancy love of having a running back over 210 and all that stuff, which I'm not buying. I don't buy into fully, but it's a stat that's out there and does definitely do the rounds in the fantasy community. And rightly so, because we've seen what happens when you're underweight running back, but we know what happens when you have overweight running backs. So
yeah, well, Eddie Lacy could be his mentor, couldn't he?
Could be, yeah. So it is concerning, and that is beginning to put me off a little.
Along with the broken finger. So there's kind of a bit of a curse going on with rookie running backs coming into the league.
Yes.
I mean, let's go through them. So you got Saquon Barkley. Obviously, he's been injured.
Yeah.
He's back now, but they're going to be careful with him, and rightly so.
Yeah,
Got Rashard Penny. We just talked about with the weight.
Those hamstring injuries that he picked up, they don't just they don't go away easy. I mean, I know he's a young guy and everything, but he could linger a bit into the season. It wouldn't surprise me. So Barkley may have a little bit of rust, if you like, for want of a better word.
So if you're picking at, say, number 5,
I'm starting to steer off a little now.
Would you take Kamara? Would you take Barkley? Would you take Brown?
I think I would take Kamara and Brown over Saquon Barkley, and then his value comes into its own at that point. And that's only because of recent events. It's not because I don't believe that he's going to get me what I need, my 200 fantasy points. I do believe that, but it just might be those first couple of weeks, or maybe more, where we have a bit of rust. And the problem is, we know how important those early wins are. You want to win in fantasy, you need them early. That always gives you more room to lose a couple later.
Yeah, or manoeuvre your pieces around.
Yeah,
sell high if you've got pieces that you're not sure about.
That would be the concern. So yes, I would agree. I would probably move Kamara up a little, and so would I move Brown.
And so we look at Penny. He's the second one. We just talked about him. He's obviously put on a lot of weight and broken his finger, so he's banged up. Now we go on to Rojo.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones.
This hasn't gone well at all, has it?
No. So he's actually had more carries than he has yards so far in pre-season.
He's done everything to move himself off my 12 list. The worst part is, if I'm being honest, is we're going to be sharing that 12 list basically very soon. This week, you're going to see those videos coming out quite rapidly. He would have been on that pre-season, purely based on talent and landing spot. He's done everything right to get himself off that list, and so he is. He's been removed. The problem that I see with him is it's going to be, I don't know how long it's going to take for him to absolutely get the job. Is it going to be a committee all year? It's possible. As Al Rightly is raising these rookies issues. These are things you're going to have to debate because these players are going to be sitting there around about 3 or 4 in a large league, 5 or 6, 7 in a smaller. These are big decisions that you're going to have to make. I'm not happy with what I'm seeing from him at all. And yes, it's a small sample size, and I granted that doesn't tell us everything. And this guy does have home run capability, and I do believe that he does meet my eye test when I'm looking at him.
But you might have to wait for production.
It could be a while, and we may have to wait a few weeks into the season. And as I've just said, wins are everything.
I think your microphone's gone off.
Do you think?
Yeah, it's not showing anything.
Oh, that's odd. Do you think we have to stop?
I don't know. I'm just going to pause.
Come back on. Oh, we're back on. We thought we might have lost the mic for a second. We will check
What's
it in.
going on?
Hopefully we haven't.
Sean's been juggling it most
Well,
of
I don't know what's going on today. This says it all.
That's strange, isn't it? Right,
Never
okay.
Sorry about that. But yeah, just coming back to Rojo very quickly to pick up on the point. It's a concern, and it's a big concern because it looks like the coach is favouring Peyton Barber. It looks like Peyton Barber's worked his way into at least a rotation at the beginning of the season, and I think that's fair to say that's what's coming.
And you can say the same for Carson over Penny as well. The same thing's happening.
I think so.
Okay, well, we've got Naheem Hines, obviously.
Disastrous.
Running back for the Colts.
Yeah, disastrous pre-season.
3 fumbles on a dozen touches in pre-season. This is a time you've got to shine, and that's clearly not what he needed.
What I was hoping from him, and I have to be honest and say a little bit lucky in this, I've only managed to draft him once this year, and luckily at the right price, and that's a good thing. And this is the reason you draft at a certain price value. I've been guilty, if I'm being honest, in the past of taking some high risks on players. And there's nothing wrong with that if you get it right, but it always makes you look bad if you get it wrong. And luckily this year, when I've got him in one league, I took him at the right price where it's not going to cost me anything, because if he pans into the season 7 or 8 weeks later, it wasn't like I drafted him and needing him from week 1. He's another guy that at the moment is doing everything he can not to be used, to be honest. I think it's going to be a few weeks into the season before we see really him getting opportunities later in games to show his abilities, but it'll be later in games when the Colts have control of a game. rather than when the game is on the line. I cannot and I would not trust a player that fumbles 4 times at any level. So I can't imagine for 1 minute they're going to put him out there. Can you imagine him getting a handoff from Luck and then both of them trying to fumble to collect the ball that he's dropped, putting Luck in more danger? No thanks. Not going to happen, I don't think.
Let's just talk about that Colts backfield for a minute, because it is murky as anything. Let's just go through the protagonists. We got Robert Turbin, but he's out for the first 4 games. And is he any good anyway? Christine Michael, he's been taking first team reps with Jordan Wilkins, who's a rookie. We've all seen Christine Michael, what he can do. Again, is he good enough? You've got Marlon Mack, he's been sidelined with a hamstring since pre-season game 1. So obviously
we're all fun and games here, aren't we? Giving out loads of great news.
I mean, but who do you like? I mean, you got Naeem Hines, who we just talked about.
Yeah, well, the truth is, if we're being honest, I don't want to say this, but it's Christian Michael's backfield, followed by Jordan Wilkins will be rotated in. Marlon Mack, sorry, buddy, you've had loads of chances. You're still not shining. You know, you're gonna.
Well, he's injured. That's the thing.
You're going to face. Unfortunately, this is life. You know, you're going to face a situation. By the time he's any health back, I think you're not going to get many opportunities to shine. So you better.
Well, surely it's Mac's job to lose, isn't it? Out of all them,
I think Christian Michael and Jordan will get the opportunities from the beginning of the season with the way it's going. Because Marlon Mack, if he's not back week 1, then he may lose the job fully. I mean, look at it. They need stability.
It's murky, isn't it?
It's a mess. So none of them, they can all be owned at cheap value. I mean, that's the positive news, except for Mac, which you have to pay quite a premium for, and I don't get that. So I'm not prepared to pay that premium on Mac.
He's probably the consensus likely number 1, so, but, you know, it's murky.
I would rather take a punt on one of the other 2 in the hope at their ADP that they shine through than Mac, because I'm paying a very high price for Mac, which I'm not prepared to pay. So that's how I would look at it, personally. And you may snag, I mean, if you get it at the right price of the other guys, maybe you get them so low down. It's such a bargain. It's like picking a player off the waiver, and you've just got to sit on
pretty
the
much most of the others are going any price you like. So, okay. Well, let's just talk, because it is drafting season. There are some injuries you need to know about, or at least be aware of. Most of them are minor, but LaShawn McCoy. Obviously, if you're drafting soon, there's a lot of red flags about LaShawn McCoy. Firstly, off the field, he's been investigated for quite a serious offence, but he's also day-to-day with a groin injury, so he's injured and possibly...
His biggest thing, the biggest hurdle he has to overcome, other than the injury, is simply the commissioner's exemption list. And I'm not going to keep stating this high enough. Look, this is the reality the commissioner has to face. He has to announce whether McCoy plays or not, which he will do very soon. The odds are he will not play this season, because he cannot be seen under the players' prerogatives, because the players have a set of rules that they have to follow, the same as the commissioner, same as all the NFL staff, and everybody playing, referees as well. There is a code of conduct. The commissioner has his, and it's expected by all the owners to follow the rules as fairly as possible. They understand the commissioner has an exemption list, but it is there to stop a situation brewing. This has the potential to be a big problem for him if he doesn't suspend him. So I suspect he has to suspend him before the season starts.
And he doesn't even need the burden of proof, because you saw that with Zeke last year. He was cleared by the police, and he was still banned for 6 games.
LaShawn McCoy, this is going to rumble on into the season, so I am very, very concerned drafting him. I mean, if for whatever reason he plays out...
He could appeal, and he could play, and he could be value all year, but do you really want to worry about a guy like that all year, at any moment? A bit like having Zeke last year.
You're paying round 2 value for a player that may have absolutely no value or could win you a league. It is a real dice call. If you're a gambler, if you like your high value picks, the kind of things that can really pay off, then maybe having snagged a very good player in round 1, you come back, you take McCoy because he's sitting there. That could be an awesome move. It really could. But this is a bit like round 3, Josh Gordon. I don't like those moves. They rarely pan out for me, and I would recommend against them.
It's almost like Russian roulette, isn't it? Yeah. He's either going to do really well for you, or he's going to take your team out.
The last thing you want is to lose a player up there. And why, when you know that this is a possibility, why draft them? Seriously, I'd swerve. Let other people take that risk and keep building a good team. I mean, surely that's good fantasy advice.
Okay. We talked about Doug Baldwin and his knee injury, so you've got to be aware of that. It could affect his value a bit. He might drop. So
well, we haven't really talked details here, and I think it's now time to release a very important detail that's been floating around. And
it's only a rumour, though. You've got to qualify this.
You have to take this with a pinch of salt. But I think the rumour has some good good foundation. So they have said that he has obviously had a swelling in the knee. He's undergone procedures to have a look at it and what have you. And there is a potential possibility this is tendinitis, which basically is the beginning of arthritis in the knee. Now, if that's the case, and this is a constant swelling that he's going to be facing all season, and he's 30 years old, not saying he can't play, not saying he can't produce, not saying that for a minute, because this is a guy who plays hurt, this is a guy who plays tough. He may still have a year or two left in the tank and may produce really good numbers. But this is a very serious problem because you could play a game and everything could be great and the stat line could look brilliant, and you hear about him having to be rested because he's got a swelling in the knee, and then he may not play for a few weeks. I really worry. I've swerved every draft away from taking him.
Again, it's just be you've got to factor that risk into the price.
If you get him at a good price, there's always a price. If he drops around lower than where you expect to get him, oh, sure, take a punt because you're not paying that premium, then it's worth a go. But it has to be around below. Otherwise, let someone else take it.
Okay, on to the next one. George Kittle, tight end for the San Francisco 49ers. He'd been ruled out of pre-season. Hopefully he's back week 1. So that's something to bear in mind if you're drafting him. If he isn't back week 1, you need another
big fancy darling on him this year, isn't it? I mean, he's a good sleeper tight end. I get that. I think San Francisco are going to need him, and I think it's going to be good for Garoppolo, who's we mentioned about his stat line: 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, or 7 to 5, or whatever it was. But he's going to need his tight end, so hopefully he's back and can deliver on what he's capable of, because he's certainly in with a chance of breaking that top 12 of tight ends by the end of the year, maybe even top 10. That would be pretty awesome, actually. So he's got a chance. See how that plays out for him. Hopefully the injury is as minor as they say.
Okay, and what you need to know about the San Francisco 49ers backfield, you've got Matt Breida. He's got a shoulder injury. He's out till week 1.
Yep.
McKinnon sprained his knee, so that's, again, a bit worrying. Yep. He's out till week 1, so they won't risk him again in pre-season.
No.
They lost Joe Williams. He got injured again, so that could be the end of him.
I think he's gone.
After spending all year, his rookie year on injured reserve.
Excuse me.
He could be put on IR again here. They've bought in Alfred Morris, who,
the butler.
Probably the biggest bat there.
Yep.
So he might have some really late value in a deep league, just in case, or if you just want to, I don't know.
I think if we look at it logically, I think if Joe Williams is going to start the year off in PUP again, he's finished. It's over. The love affair that anybody would have had with him a couple of years ago. I took a punt in Dennis draft second round on him, but it's all gone. I cashed out last year, got what I could, gone. You have to do that. It's brutal sport. It's horrible, but I'm afraid that's the way it is. His odds are looking slim to make anywhere near the 53 bubbles. Gone. I'm hoping Breida and McKinnon are ready for week 1. I think they're doing the right thing, San Francisco. They're going to rest them until week 1 and then put them in the lineup. And the danger is one of them will re-aggravate their injury. To be honest, I'm excited to see what McKinnon can do in this offense. So I hope neither get injured, because Breida, I've got a soft spot for him because he plays hard and tough again. He's another one of these guys who's worked his way into the lineup the hard way. I've got time for that. I would like to see them both be playing week 1 and see what happens. It'd be really interesting monitoring both players, particularly Breida. And Breida's value is really good in ADP, so definitely worth a stash if you can get him.
But you have to factor in the injury.
Yeah.
Right. Big Ben, obviously, was put into the concussion protocol, but he wasn't actually touched, so that means he really probably fainted and hit his head, or fell over and hit his head.
Yeah.
Which could be a bit worrying. Obviously, they've checked him out. He's fine. But
I did see some... It is not official footage. I don't know if you've seen it around somebody from with a camera on.
What do you mean not official? Was he in it?
He's in it, but it's not a great picture of what... You don't really get a full view of what it happened. It looked
what
like
did you see then?
A general stumble and down. And because it wasn't expected to stumble, like anybody, if you stumble on a stair, you fall down the stairs. He took a stumble on the field. He fell backwards. Yeah, it looked a little bit concerning, but they didn't put him through the concussion protocol. He was looked at by the medics. They would have had independent people look him over. The good news is they've done the right thing with him. They've just rested him. And to be honest with you, this is probably Ben's... we're in the twilight point now. So it's going to be a really interesting year for him. I think he's just going to let it go and have fun. And I think Pittsburgh is going to be an exciting team to watch this year. So it should be interesting to see what happens. He's certainly, all the pieces are there to have a great offensive year. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. And their matchups are good first few weeks.
They announced today, actually, or yesterday, they're actually going to run no huddle quite often. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it'd be an exciting year.
You could be worried about him fainting. a lot of other players.
Well, I hope it's just what it is. It looked like a stumble rather than a feint. I mean, but then you've got to remember, and until you've ever done this, it is really hard. When you're out, and these guys, the professionals will. They do their training every day, but they do their own workouts before the training, and then if you're a professional, you work on beyond when everybody else
Do you
is
think
left.
Big Ben does a lot of working out? It doesn't look like the sort of...
I think you might be surprised at what he has to do to win players over, and there's a lot of captaincy parts, which mean you have to be the last off the field and things. It's hard. It's a grind, and he's in the twilight of his career. So it's right. They've got to rest him a bit, look after him. This is going to be an interesting year for Pittsburgh, who could go close.
Okay, well let's move on to the New England backfield, because obviously this is very murky as well.
We've got some murky ones here, haven't we? Just really are shaking out.
Rex Burkhead had been out with a small tear in his knee. He's back in training now, so it looks like he's all right. But a tear in the knee, wouldn't be the first time.
I'm going to just say this straight, right? So years ago, I told Al this off camera. So I got a tear in my thigh muscle. I ripped my thigh muscle on my right leg long before playing American football, and I played a lot of soccer. And I waited 9 months under advisement before I went and played again. And so I did all the work you have to do, building back up, feeling good about yourself, running, cutting, all those kind of things. Did all that, did it all the right way, and then went out. And within the first proper run, not a game, retore it. So I was out another 5 months. Pretty much the end of any kind of football aspirations. I did like football, but I wasn't particularly good at it. But I think I could have done okay at any sort of decent semi-professional level. I think I'd have been okay. But lost all the power when. It's a knee tear. This is so serious. I wouldn't be drafting Rex Burkhead at all. Sorry, just wouldn't touch it.
The same thing happened with Guys. He had a tear in his... And then he sort of
just couldn't
torn it more, and he's done his ACL. So
just couldn't trust it.
Tannehill did the same last year. Didn't get his ACL repaired. It was a small tear.
That knee tear. You've
just got to factor it into the price.
Look at it logically where it could be. I mean, there are 3 key ligaments surrounding the knee. Now, it doesn't matter which one it is that's torn or slightly has a tear in it. That's huge risk. I mean, going into an American football season. I mean, I know these guys do take risks, but that's massive. I would not be drafting him in any.
Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great player.
Oh, he is.
And if he plays all year, you're going to be laughing. But he missed a lot of games last year. He's got a knee tear this year.
I think it's a swerve moment. I really do. I think if I don't mean this horribly, but if you've drafted him, then you try and trade off a bit before the season really hits. Try and get some value back.
Or maybe wait for 1 or 2 good games.
Well, maybe he does have a couple of good games. You can really trade in on it. But I would try to trade personally as quickly as I could, because I'd be very, very worried that this is going to go and then I'm left with nothing. And I really worry about their backfield anyway. It looks a right mess. Okay. That's another backfield that's going to be very murky this year.
Carrying on with the rookie running back curse, talking about Sony Michel, he had knee surgery in the pre-season. So he's been out of all pre-season. He's missed, I think, 12 or 13 practices now, but back-to-back. So it's a lot of time to miss as a rookie. Obviously, he's got the injury. He's hopefully back week 1, but again...
You're talking New England. I mean, of all the teams to miss any kind of time with, they're the team I would least like to miss time with. I mean, look, if you look at the way that Bill runs that team, you fall in line with his methods. That goes for coaches as well as players. Success breeds that teaching. So no matter what anybody thinks about it, if you're a player with any doubts, do you really doubt a person that's won 5 Super Bowls? No. So you've got a situation here where you missed 13 practices back-to-back, as Al says, and I can't see the guy making any real impact early doors here. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out for him, but early on, no. You've got to hold. If you've got him, you've got to hold. You've got to wait and see how he breaks into the lineup and when. And then hopefully he capitalises. The main guy who capitalises is the guy that Al loves, that sneaks to all.
No, I don't love him.
But you just got to have him.
Don't get me wrong.
You got
not love him at all.
Well, he's got a value in redraft, massive value actually, because anything could happen, and he's going so cheap. It's our good old friend Jeremy Hill.
Jeremy Hill, yeah, he's a goal line plunger.
Maybe that's all New England need. They'll get situations. We all know they do it all the time. They march down the field. They move the ball really well. Captain Fantastic is great at it. This is his strength, I think, is how he dissects the field when he's on a roll. and then you get within the 5-yard line, and if they don't punch it in the first time, Jeremy will get an opportunity in those 3 attempts, and he's going to break some in because he's that kind of back.
I mean, he could have a sort of LeGarrette Blount role. I'd definitely sort of recommend drafting him really late. You can get him any time you want. No one likes Jeremy Hill, do they?
No.
So
this year there is a value, and
there's a potential value, and if there isn't, you can just drop him and pick somebody else up of waivers.
I think it's a win-win, actually. I don't think you can lose anything with his value at the moment. It is just so simple. So
all you can lose is your dignity. And I haven't got any dignity, so he's fine.
In fantasy, it's all the W's in the columns, isn't it? If that's what's going to get you over the line, you take it.
If you can get there's potential to get you 10.
What would you rather have? Somebody who's got Sony Michel in round 4, or somebody who took Jeremy Hill last round maybe as a flyer and then ends up stealing the job away and gets all that fantasy value? That's gold in itself, isn't it? That's bragging rights.
Yeah,
and Jeremy Hill did that for me. God,
it would worry me owning Michel that Hill. He may gets cut. You can get rid of him then as well. But there's potential value. He has been taking some first team reps.
Definitely.
They obviously didn't like Gillersley after the first 3 weeks last year.
You have to just temper everything here and just watch again. This is highly murky, very concerning, and again, I don't want anything to do with it. None. I've swerved past these offences that are going to cause me problems, just focused on players that will play.
And Burkett isn't going to run the ball either, so if he goes down, James White's going to be the main beneficiary, or maybe Patterson.
Well, I think White has a real good value in PPR, maybe a little bit of value in redraft, but I think it's more of a flex play in redraft, depending on the format. I mean, some of the leagues we play, yes, he has a value.
Yep. Okay. So let's talk about Jamal Williams. He obviously went down with an ankle injury. He was very angry that somebody had deliberately injured him. But he's back in training now. I think he's going to be running angry. So, you got any reservations about drafting Jamal Williams?
Well, I was hoping that he would have had a clean camp so that he could have a crack at the job.
Hit the
properly.
ground running.
Yeah, really hit it running so that while Aaron Jones is out because of his PED violation, he capitalises on that, and we see the best of him because at the moment he's been okay when he's been a runner. He's an excellent blocker, but this doesn't really help his stock much. I don't think it really. I think we'll have to wait and see here how this plays out. The good thing is he's got the opportunity. He's back. He's going to have to seize it. He's got 2 weeks once the season starts, not only to prove he's a capable blocker, which everybody knows. It's the running part. Can he do a serviceable job to move the chains when required? If he can, they may rely on him. They may rely on him, and Aaron Jones may not work his way back in. But if he's poor, 2.5 yards, 3 yards to carry, it's just not good enough to help Rodgers. They're going to rotate Aaron Jones in more, and then you will probably see carries going the other way quite quickly. And
you've got Montgomery in the mix as well.
I've always believed you can teach a running back to block. I think the one thing you can't teach is the skill set that Aaron Jones has got. He's much quicker. He's more decisive. You can't teach that. But you can teach a running back to block, and if they can get that bit down with him, if he can pick those skills up, then we may see a quick change. We may see a quick change to him, and he could be good value. But at the moment, it is another one. It's very murky. I like Jamal for the early weeks, but after that, all bets are off. We'll have to see how he does week 1 and 2, and we'll have a much better idea then.
Okay. There's some news that came out about T.Y. Hilton's shoulder, that he might be out 2 or 3 weeks, but he's already back practicing, so that doesn't look like an issue.
No, he had a sprain. They did the right thing precaution wise with him. It was not a deep sprain, so it was a soft tissue sprain. He's had the injury before on the same shoulder, and it's something he's learned to pain manage himself. He was able to liaise very clearly with their camp. I had to watch it very carefully because I've drafted him a few times this year, just seeing how he is. But I wanted to make sure I was really all over this injury. But I'm happy to say he'll be back week 1, and they've done the right. I'd rather see the.
He's already back in practice. So.
I want to see the starters reach the starting line, and let's see what happens from there. Injuries will come no matter what anybody says, but let's just see the best players get out on the field, and hopefully, I think T.Y. Hilton has a great chance for a huge comeback this year because if Luck's back and throwing the years. Hopefully he'll benefit from that a lot, and we'll see how that goes.
Let's talk about 3 wide receivers that might miss some time. Our old friend Devontae Parker.
Oh, that's lovely. Mr. Glass.
Yeah, he broke his finger.
That's not the first time he's hurt his hand, is it?
No. I mean, he's just always injured, isn't he? He's a bit like Tyler Eifert.
I can't stand him, personally, and I think the problem for me with him has always been I've seen a player that seems to miss a lot of time. He's not reliable enough for me. Yes, you can get him at an okay ADP, but there are players around that ADP I prefer. So it's not like you're getting him for nothing. You are having to pay a price. So
do you see any world in which he has a massive fantasy season?
no, because I think what will happen is he'll go down long before that fantasy season develops. I mean, I think that's the truth.
Issue, isn't it?
He'll have 2 or 3 great weeks maybe, and that's a maybe, and then that's it. So no, I want to avoid those kind of players that really annoy me. That I like consistency. It's the rule of fantasy for me. And you know as well in your heart of hearts when you've drafted a team, and you know this as well when you have that situation, looking at your team and you're thinking, in all truthfulness, they're not scoring well enough. And then you look more deeply at your team and you go, well, actually, this player's been scoring 3 points, then he got 9, then he got 2. And very quickly you're really working out that your team just isn't consistent enough. Those players like Devontae Parker just absolutely irritate me to death. I can't stand them. You're
lucky if you get 2. He's got to get on the pitch first.
He's got to get on the pitch, yeah. So he may not even get off your bench. So yeah, worrying. Right. Definitely not a player.
Another one you need to know about: Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah,
he's already on the PUP list. He hasn't practiced at all. He had off-season surgery. He could well begin the season on PUP. So you're already going to be behind the 8 ball if that happens. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's a possibility. There's certainly rumours that it could happen.
It's looking more and more likely. I mean, we're going to know more in about a week. So the truth is, the PUP list is looking more than a 50% chance that he'll start there. And that sounds horrendous. And it is. Fantasy-wise, it's terrible. But it is looking that way. And he's certainly, even if he plays, even if he comes back to the starting line, he is you're going to have to watch him very carefully and see how this plays out, because this is a very high chance of an re-aggravation of an injury. So even if they get to that point, he takes the risk as a player, and medics are okay for him to take the risk, I'd be very worried. So it is beginning to look likely that he may miss a few weeks of the regular season. Now, there's all sorts of players that benefit from that. So, but it is the Eagles, and their specialism is mismatch. That's what they do really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aguilar's had a few injuries. Both the quarterbacks have had sort of injuries as well.
Yeah, Foles as well.
Although Foles is back okay now, I think.
Thank God.
Okay, well, another player that there's a lot of fans of him, and there's a lot of fans that don't like him. He splits opinion. Josh Gordon.
Yep.
Obviously, he's back with the Browns now. Obviously, he's been missing a few weeks, but he's not cleared to practice yet. I don't know if that's changed, actually. I don't know if that's been updated. I haven't seen anything where they've said he's cleared to practice.
I think his head is not in the right place at all, which is obvious. He has never kind of lived up to the hype that he had when he had his...
He wasn't hype. He actually was wide receiver overall, wasn't he?
He had one great season is where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
so I respect that, yes, it wasn't hype. It was, it was a great season. But after that, we kind of lived on the hype train of it's going to come back. There's been moments, there's been flashes where he's possible. He's mentored a young kid, and that young kid already went off the rails. Josh Gordon, head isn't in the right place before the season has started. I mean, this isn't like he's got an injury and he's having to battle back from an ACL or something. I'm not liking it. This is a guy I'd definitely swerve, and I would advise you all to absolutely look. I'm not denying the guy has got upside, the like of which we could die for, but the floor is also very, very, very deep here as well. So you're paying a potential third-round value, in any kind of league format for him, maybe fourth if it's a small league. That's a massive value to play for a player that could end up.
Well, his floor is actually straight to the pit of misery, isn't it?
Gone.
Straight to the
dilly pit. Absolutely.
Josh Gordon's at the pit of misery.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one I want to risk at all. I admire people who take that gambler's pick, and it's one of those. I love the words that Al uses for it, because it's a gambler's pick. Could pay out. Could be a brilliant one. It's not my kind of fantasy drafting. That's killed me off before, and I won't be fooled again. Fool me once or twice, but don't fool me 3 times.
I mean, if it was cheaper to get him, then the risk's worth taking. But it's just currently it isn't.
No, it's not my cup of tea, and I don't think this is a good situation at all. So we'll see what happens.
Is there anything else you want to mention that hasn't been covered? Anything else you can think of where you've seen some news and it's,
Well, nothing really particular. I mean, I think the news front you've covered off exceptionally well. I mean, everything is kind of there. We're going to cover off in 12 videos, maybe a little bit more actually than 12. We're going to cover off to players that's my targeting list, my bold prediction list for this year, and some of these players will probably be bold prediction for Dynasty for next year as well. I kind of think there's a couple of small moves, but I'll mention one of them, and I can't remember the chap's name, so you'll have to help me out here to get this guy's name right, which is the New Orleans Saints quarterback. the one that
TJ. Something?
Thank you. Yeah, TJ.
Oh,
I'm just going to dig it up because in Dynasty, this situation came up this week. Al's going to kindly bail me out because I can't remember the guy's name, even though I picked him up in one Dynasty league.
You can't remember your own name, is it? You
can't remember anything. See, that's what I'm at that age, you see. You're just going to have to forgive me. It's a senior moment now. But this particular chap in Dynasty has a value, so it's worth mentioning in the programme. So Al's going to help me out. You stick it into the list.
I'm not helping you out. You're on your own.
I might have to talk forever.
Why can't I see the New Orleans Saints?
There
Right?
they are. Look, just point, see, I'm having to help you now.
I'm blind.
So between us, we've got a full set of facilities, haven't we? So this particular chap's deep down there.
JT Barrett.
Right, so he's currently sitting at what position within the quarterback chain?
Well, they've got him at 4 here, but
4,
this is an unofficial depth chart.
Right, well, so here, this particular chap, JT Barrett, my advice is, in Dynasty, and this is a good bit of news, is take him now, grab him now off the Dynasty wire, stash him, and hold on to him, because it ain't that long before this guy could be very interesting in that with a very exciting offense. Somebody's got to take over. So I just say it's worth a stash. So just a little bit of Dynasty news, a little something there's a little nugget that I reckon is well worth doing. I do these things a lot. Dynasties are my favourite things to play. They do take a lot of manoeuvring, but even if you never get to use the guy, it's a piece that you can trade on. And I mean,
there are some 2QB Dynasty leagues where, finding even getting another QB is sometimes really hard. So
it's massive, yeah.
Especially in that sort of league, you'd be really
I do like them, and it's a great offense, and they need the next man up. And this is a kid, I'm picking him up because it's not just because he maybe have a chance. This guy definitely has a really big shot at taking that job because he is just very exciting. If you watch tape on him, look at him, and the reason they've drafted him, it all makes sense now. It's been a very sneaky under the waiver thing. I didn't notice it until I saw this little move, and I suddenly thought, oh, hang on, let me just check into this a bit more. And then I realised, wow, I better run to the waiver wire, have a look, is he out there, grab him.
What's his name? Can't
remember, but grabbed him and then just put it way at the back of my mind. So that was one bit of news that I really wanted to cover off because I thought that was really, really important.
Yeah, it's always good to know new players. Like I say, we talked about Chris Warren and he sort of did something.
Another bit of news, well, we're going to cover this in the bold prediction of this. So again, this is not going to be a huge surprise to put this man on the list, but it would have been if you hadn't listened into our podcast right back at the beginning. So now we can really say, this guy is definitely going to get the job. So it's worth mentioning Royce Freeman. Now look,
I'm going to talk about that because
yeah, good.
Well, basically, he is the one that sort of rookie running back that hasn't really been affected by this sort of curse that's come out this year that's affected nearly everybody else.
No, he's done everything right. He's done exactly what I hoped he would do. He's a guy that I targeted very early 5th pick in a dynasty draft, which that looked at the time quite ballsy, actually. Now that looks a stroke of looks great.
You probably aren't getting him at 5 anymore, are you?
You're not getting him at 5. So in truthfulness, that was really, really quite sneaky. There's a reason. It was all opportunity over talent. We said this before on the podcast. Really believe those words. Stand by them, actually. He is not necessarily the most exciting guy, but if anybody gets a nod from my old friend Terrell Davis, I wish he was my friend.
He won't return Shaw's calls.
John Elway, I bug him all the time. Send him letters, doesn't reply. Don't know why. Got no idea. Maybe it's the
I've got a few ideas.
Yeah, thanks. Senior moment. Surely support a senior. Take me over. I want to see his. I want to be out there. Support the guy. Anyway, if he gives the nod to a player, and John Elway gets behind a player, the quarterback gets behind a player, the team get behind a player, he's going to play. He's going to play. So he's a 3-down back. He's going to be interesting to watch where he ends up as a rookie. And let me tell you something as well, right? So you look at all those injuries to rookies, and you start weighing up which rookie could have the biggest impact, and you think about gambling. So I'm not advocating this, but he isn't even mentioned in a lot of gambling lists, and they're talking about players already injured. I noticed that Geis was 50-1. He's not even going to play in England. So you might get Royce Freeman for 250-1. I'd take a gamble on the rookie taking ended up with a crown. So put some cash on it, a couple of quid, just for the kids. I mean, surely, got to be worth a punt. Could be the guy this year. So, and he could be the guy that wins you fantasy championship. The sad bit is I tried everything in redraft to get this guy. I really have. I've tried everything. I didn't want to stretch high and grab him in the second. I waited till the third and he was gone. I only got him in Dynasty, okay? I'm grateful I've got him, a piece of the action with him, because I'm excited for this year. But if you can get him at the right price, and it is getting the right price, because that's going to be difficult to judge now, then do grab him, because I don't think you're going to get it. That's one backfield I feel very confident around.
Okay, what we'll do, we'll finish with a cut, trade, keep. Like I say, we've got loads of videos that are going to be coming
roll them out now.
Because it's draft season. All our sleepers, our players to target, all sorts of things coming out. So keep an eye out for them.
And please do comment on those videos and tell us if we've missed anybody, because we love that information.
All right, well, cut, trade, keep then. So you've got to cut one, you've got to trade one, you've got to keep one.
Yep.
We're going to do 3 rookie running backs because these are the sort of decisions people have got to make.
Yep. Okay.
So let's take Sony Michel, Kerryon Johnson,
Yep.
and Rashard Penny. Cut, trade, keep.
Well, the one I'm keeping is Kerryon Johnson because we still don't know. So as far as rolling the dice, I'll take a roll of the dice on Kerryon Johnson right now over the other two 100%. I would definitely do that. His price is good enough for me to take a punt in redraft leagues. Definitely, I would do that. It's worth that shot. Obviously, I want to get the right price because we still don't know enough, but I would keep him. I'm definitely getting rid of Sony Michel. I don't think it's going to be really hard for me to trade on that name, to be perfectly honest with you, and I'll try my luck on the other ones to see if I could get a deal.
Penny to see if you could trade him.
See if I could trade.
Maybe to the Carson owner.
Maybe. So that's what I would do with that one.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your time. If you stayed with us, and you've watched Sean juggling a microphone.
Yep.
Unless you're listening on
iTunes.
iTunes,
forgetting a player's name, but you're used to that by now.
Yeah, but that's part of the charm of this sort of show. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up. And
we do need your feedback. And as we say, we're about to roll out a lot of videos. So as Al rightly says, please comment on them. If you think we missed a player or you believe something else, please tell us because, have bragging rights. Looking back, if you get it right, we're happy to say well done.
Yeah, because there's been a few good calls in the comments, actually, from last year. And we did give them a shout out.
And it definitely has guided us. So those guys who've made those calls, we have looked at what you've said. So in some of our drafts, I took, shockingly, in one draft, Randall Cobb.
Yes.
He was at the right value.
I talked him into it.
Latavius Murray is out there with the right value. And actually, maybe this isn't quite the end of the show because that's a bit of news that's just come back to me. That senior moment has struck again. I've just realised something that maybe we didn't cover here. Randall Cobb, because there was a bit of news about him.
Yeah, but then I didn't put it in because they said they were shopping him, and then they came out and said it was complete rubbish.
Oh, well, there we
are.
So that ends that then. On that bright note.
Rappaport came out, and obviously he said it was complete rubbish.
And on that wonderful bright note, Cobb is back in the fold at Packers. Let's close it up.
Okay, thanks very much for watching. Bye.